me tell you this, 37 years old, I just returned from my first trip to Washington, D.C. Can you imagine that? 37 years old, my first trip. Well, I get to the hotel and I'm excited about it. I tell the lady at the front desk, this is my first trip to our nation's capital. I want to see everything. What do you suggest? She said, well, every morning at the front of the hotel, they got a bus that comes, 7 o'clock, show up and takes you on a tour of the whole city. You get to see everything. I said, that's me. That's what I want. Next morning, 7 o'clock, I'm out there waiting. Bus drives up. Well, being my first time, I wanted a window seat. I wanted to see everything that was around the city. So I go and I find one seat way in the back corner, and there's a gentleman. And I told him, I said, hey, what you say, partner? That's when the Cajun translators are supposed to say, that's a good friend, how are you, that type of stuff. So he stands up to allow me to sit next to the window. And I'll be honest, when he stood up, I'm looking up at this guy. He had to be 5'9" or 5'10". He was huge. So I sit next to the window, and we start going. We got some small talk. And I said, man, where you from? I said, I'm from Louisiana. He said, I am from France. I said, well, is that by Shreveport? He said, no, it's actually a country. I said, oh, okay, I got you. So we start going. We got some small talk. Now, the communication's bad. I say something, you don't understand me. He says something, I don't understand him. But we get right by the nation's capital, that beautiful building. And he says, excusez-moi. I said, well, you excuse, what's your question? He said, what is that big building right there? So I looked to the side. I said, well, that's the national capital. That's where all the business of this nation takes place. He said, how long did it take y'all to build that? So a little Cajun like me, I start thinking, I said, man, probably about 10 years. He said, in France, we built something like that in about 6 or 7 years. So I start thinking, I got one of these, huh? So sure enough, where we're going, we're right there by the Library of Congress. He says, excusez-moi. I said, well, Mr. Excusez-moi, what's your question? He says, what is that big building right there? So I looked to the side, it's the Library of Congress. I said, well, that's the Library of Congress. I said, that's where they have all the books. The best I could do. He said, how long did it take y'all to build that? So I looked at him, I said, about 6 or 7 years. He says, in France, we built that in 2 to 3 years. So by this time, my little Cajun temper's getting the best of me. I'm mad, I'm angry. We take a right, we're going down Pennsylvania Avenue. I could see it in his face, something he saw. He said, excuse-moi, what is that big white house right there? So I looked to the side. I said, I don't know, it wasn't there yesterday.